Director Groven.
Here.
Director Higgins. Here. Director Holt.
Present.
Director Cotel. Director Lewis.
Here.
Director McGallis.
Here.
Director Melvin.
Here.
Director Pang.
Here.
Director Ross. Here. Dr. Sager. Director Troiani.
Here.
Chairman Dillard.
Present.
We have a quorum of 13 present with 3 absent.
Great. Thank you, and thank you all for your excellent attendance as usual. Item 4 is the public comment section of the meeting. Susan, did anyone sign in for the public comment section?
We have no one signed in.
Great. Thank you. So we will move on. And item 5 is your
We
report.
skipped the approval of the minutes.
Ah, okay. Let's do that.
Okay.
The item 3, which we skipped, is the approval of the minutes from the meeting held on April 18th, 2019. Any questions? Can I have a motion and a second? Motion by Director Higgins, seconded by Director Holt, that we approve the minutes from the April 18th, 2019 meeting. Audrey, why don't you take a roll call so we have a baseline?
Okay. Director Colson. Director Durante.
Aye.
Director Fraga. Director Groven.
Aye.
Director Higgins.
Aye.
Director Holt.
Aye.
Director Lewis.
Yes.
Director McGallis.
Aye.
Director Melvin.
Aye.
Director Pang.
Yes.
Director Ross. Director Troiani.
Aye.
Chairman Dillard.
Yes.
13 ayes and 3 absent.
Thank you. Now, item 5, Leanne, the Executive Director's report.
So, okay, good. This is ready to go. So, I can start with perhaps slightly some good news. Due to a larger than usual influx of revenue in the month of April, the state was able to pay us a larger than normal share or portion of their outstanding debt owed to us. So while this is a positive sign, we did have a follow-up conversation with the Comptroller's Office, and suffice it to say, don't expect that to keep happening on that schedule. But we're happy that we were able to reduce the level of debt that they had. So the bottom line for that is, through the end of April, the state owes us a relatively smaller amount of $261.3 million in the combination of the ASA, AFA, which is the state's payment to the debt service, and then the PTF funds. So, but again, it was a one-time bonus, if you will, and it'll go back to being kind of the less frequent, less large payments going forward. The state still owes us, though, even with this large influx. The state is still about 10 months behind on the ASA, about 10 months behind on the AFA. Again, they're the debt service payments that the state pays to us. And then they are about the equivalent of about 5 months behind on the Public Transportation Fund. And as I always remind everybody, the year-to-date costs of the short-term debt that we float to cover this is at $1.8 million, and we are only in May. So, kind of related to that, the Illinois General Assembly is entering into its last 2 weeks of its scheduled spring session. Their adjournment date is set for May 31st. Legislators have yet to come to an agreement on a number of big issues, including the FY 2020 budget, the passage of constitutional graduated income tax provision, and the perennial topic we talk about, the capital infrastructure bill. All of these issues still need to be debated, along with the ever important revenue-generating proposals, and some of those include right now sports betting, legalization of cannabis, amongst other things. So, a lot going on. The House Democrats have begun to put together a budget proposal that includes 7% of additional cuts. Sort of, we're talking about what our budget might look like. A lot of this plays out over the next several weeks too, because whatever these additional, if budget cuts come through, if they're not able to raise sufficient revenues to balance the budget, that will also have an additional impact on us. You recall a few years ago, we kind of got that hit, sort of blindsided somewhat in that hit, and had to make some significant changes to our budgets mid-year course correction. There's also, and so while there's several capital infrastructure bills being discussed right now, it seems that the passage of that bill is sort of more importantly being tied to some of the passages of other big items that I mentioned, sort of in terms of revenue and the broader budget, and sort of being used as negotiation in the broader packages that might come together over the next couple of weeks. The RTA continues to engage in daily conversations on capital, on budget, with legislators in Springfield and elsewhere. Jeremy is pretty much spending most of his time in Springfield, so that's why he's not here today, but we continue to work that. The chairman and I were down there. It wasn't last week, it was the week before, and we sort of stand ready to jump in the car or jump on the train at a moment's notice to be there as things heat up over the next 2 weeks. We'll keep you informed as things happen, but the next few weeks, anyone who's been around and sort of watched this stuff closely, it can happen sort of middle of the night, the 11th hour, but we sort of stay. Jeremy gets to spend his whole Memorial Day weekend in Springfield typically, so loves that. The short-term borrowing authorization legislation has passed out of the Senate Transportation Committee and is currently awaiting vote on the Senate floor. You recall it's already passed on the House side, so this is good progress. We don't foresee really any issues with that. It's just a matter of when it kind of gets to the floor and moves. On to D.C. May 1, Congressman Mike Quigley testified before the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee during what they call Members' Day. It's where members of Congress themselves testify and submit statements for the record to specific committees. The congressman included some of the RTA's priorities in his testimony and his statement for the record. He stated that Chicagoland agencies, like the RTA, are working hard to ensure that our infrastructure continues to be met, to meet the needs of our citizens, I should say. Addressing the capital and construction backlog are key to achieving that goal. So again, sort of the conversations that we and the service boards continue to have with our delegation in Washington, I think continue to sort of on that drumbeat of our need, not just on the state side, but also on the federal side as well. On April 30th, President Trump met with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and State Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and several other Democratic lawmakers to discuss the potential of an infrastructure package. It was pretty widely covered in the media. The consensus was it was a constructive conversation to the tune of agreeing upon a $2 trillion infrastructure package nationwide. However, there was no discussion about the complementary way to pay for that piece of that bill. So we'll stay posted, we'll stay engaged, and we'll continue to try to advance any way we can in those conversations. A follow-up infrastructure meeting is planned to be scheduled in the coming weeks. Vice President Pence and Senate Republicans also met during their weekly caucus lunch on May 7th and discussed the infrastructure proposal concepts and also voiced concern over the amount of money being discussed and how what it would take to get that funded. Okay. So switching back to some local information, there was a consultative meeting held with stakeholders here at RTA on May 8th to get some input on the RTA's proposed DBE goal methodology for fiscal years 2020 through 22. So it's a federal process. Nadine can speak at length about this if you have specific questions. But every few years we have to kind of come back and revisit what our DBE goal percentage is. There's a methodology. We had a sort of an informal meeting inviting vendors to come in and talk with us about that. That is the precursor to making this more broadly and publicly available on June 10th, seeking broader public comments on that. And we will seek comments through July 24, and then we bring that back to the board that back to board in August for approval. It will be all the information is posted on our website. But if in any of your travels you run into any vendors that might want to sort of have a look at the website, encourage them to look there. And the contact person here at RTA is Latoya Red, and her full information is available on the website, so they can reach out and connect with her as well. You also may recall we mentioned at the last board meeting that we were hosting Get On Board Day. I think it was the following week after the last board. This was part of a statewide communication campaign reminding riders and stakeholders to get on board, encourage state legislators to support transit funding. We had a press conference at Union Station on April 25th. We were joined by our colleagues of the service boards as well as other regional stakeholders. It was part of also a broader national initiative on the same day that is being sponsored and sort of led by the American Public Transit Association. Chairman Dillard was our MC. All the speakers shared one united message. That was the importance of transits to our regional economy and our need for long-term and consistent funding. It was a very successful event, and thanks to the communication team here and the support from the service boards helping us put that together. We got quite a good deal of media coverage, including WGN Radio and TV, WLS, and WBZ, and more. So we thought that was a pretty successful event. And it also happened to coincide with Bring Your Kids to Work Day. So I think the cute kid there is Sis Killen from Cook County Department of Transportation. I think it was her son, who didn't want to do the scheduled activities and preferred to come and support transit funding. So we had to include him in the picture. But the website, the webpage is still available. You can get to it from our website as well as others. But I encourage you to take 2 seconds, log on, and submit your information to tell our legislators it's an automated thing to get on board and support transit funding. With that, that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Director Higgins, question for the Executive Director.
I have a question about the state backlog and its relationship to the short-term borrowing. What's the plan for pay down? Is the relationship between the two of those? Do we have a particular number in mind where we start paying it, or are we just going to wait till they're due? Or
no, we pay as we go, if you will. So as soon as there's an influx of cash, we will pay down. We've got and Bill, you can jump in, but we have a combination of, in our short-term debt portfolio, if you will, we have different kinds of pieces. So some, we pay down as quickly as possible, and it just sits there unused, so we're paying a lesser rate on things. Do you want to just get into a bit more?
So we have $150 million of fixed-rate working cash notes, 2-year notes outstanding, and then we have $250 million of a direct placement with a bank. That $250 million, as Leanne said, there's a used rate and an unused rate, so we're able to pay that down as money comes in, and if the money stops or slows down, we can then reborrow.
I understand. So we're not using all $400 million at the moment.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
And I always call that number, it's $250 million that the state owes us, and semantically I always just say it's $250 million. That's an eye-popping number, on top of the $20 million for the 5% PTF cut and the outrageous 1.5% they charge us. That's $19 million to collect the tax they already collect. So it's just it's amazing. All right, thank you. Just one comment on what Springfield's doing. It is just imperative that they come up with a sustainable revenue source. Sports betting and gimmickry is not going to cut it. Mayor Emanuel sometimes refers to those kinds of things as fairy dust, but it is going to take a real sustainable revenue source to get us through the 10-year desert that we have been in, not only in the mass transit field, but all of our infrastructure statewide. So I plan on being down there and probably Memorial Day as well, as I see when the session closes on the 30th and 31st. So it will be interesting. Everybody stay vigilant. Item 6 is our friend Greg Pullman to give us an update on the activities of the RTA Transit Access Citizens Advisory Board. Good morning, Greg. It's true.
I don't know how big a hit I was, but Ruben was.
Ruben's a hit.
They kept saying, a dog, a dog. Anyway, I'm here today to report on our last meeting of the Transit Access Citizens Advisory Board. Our first item that we talked, Mark Koljak, a manager of your customer service, gave us a report on the year-end statistics for mobility services. And he generally does this, and did it before annually. There are 66,994 eligible ADA customers as of December of last year. This is a 3.5% increase, but it's a 4 from 2017. It is a 4.2% increase overall for the past 5 years. However, it does not meet the projected goal of 6%, which RTA had expected it to raise. The next item that he discussed with us was customer service calls. And these customer service calls are taken in 4 different locations within the City of Chicago's Department of Family Services and Support. There were 17,100 calls related to asking about reduced fare, free ride, and so forth. People inquiring if they lose their card, what do they do? This was a 23% decrease in calls, and this is Mark indicated that this was due to seniors not inquiring about reduced fare. Trip information that these customer service call people take were 48,100 calls, which is a decrease from the third quarter of 2018 to the end of the year. Travel training, which is where individuals are taught how to use how to access Metra, CTA, PACE, and so forth. 72 individuals signed up for the training. 55 went through the training. They also provided 125 presentations and attended 55 outreach events. This resulted in 2,242 individuals receiving training to use public transportation. Individuals who are using ride-free, 59,900 people with disabilities, 90,300 seniors. The seniors is an increase of 1%, and there's just a slight increase of people with disabilities. Using, just hold on, I lost my place here, just one second. Using reduced fare, 8,800 individuals with disabilities use reduced fare. This is the same, and as it was, this is the same as it was the year before. 193,400 seniors use the service. This is a decrease of 2%. After I just mentioned my last 2 items, if there's any questions about the statistics, Mark has so generously is in attendance today to help answer any questions. After Mark gave his presentation, Susan Mussel told us about Get On Board, and afterwards Heather Mullins gave us a presentation of the call for projects for the 5310 program. That ends my presentation for today. Do you have any questions of me or Mark?
And I just wanted to clarify, oh, that's very echoey.
Pardon?
I just want to clarify an additional point that Greg noted that the calls at the 4 city sites, those are actually staffed by RTA staff at those locations. So we co-locate staff in those locations to support those services, so it's sort of more of a one-stop shop opportunity for customers coming in for those kinds of services. Often they have crossover questions, so we can service them at one location.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Are you ready, Rube? You're getting closer and closer to the director, I don't see.
Ruben's welcome here anytime. He's awesome. All right, item 7 is the approval of a consent, or the consent items as they appear on the board agenda. 7A is the resolutions certifying the financial results for the fourth quarter of 2018, and 7B, the ordinance approving the 2020 budget call for the annual budget, 2-year financial plan, and 5-year capital plan. Any questions or comments? Those were pretty thoroughly covered in the Finance Committee. Can I have a motion in a second then? Director Pang moves that we adopt 7A and 7B, seconded by Director J.D. Ross. There leave for the attendance roll call. Seeing no objection, leave is granted.
13 ayes and 3 absent.
Thank you. Item 8 is the approval of contract and expenditure items as they appear on our board agenda. And the items for consideration include 8A, which is an ordinance authorizing the task order contracts through the City of Chicago piggyback clause for the community planning program. 8B is the ordinance authorizing the purchase of excess liability insurance policies by the RTA's loss financing and joint self-insurance fund, and those layers are laid out in pretty specific terms in our board packet. And 8C are travel expense reimbursements for selected staff and the board as required by law. Any questions on any of those? If not, can I have a motion in a second? Director Durante moves we approve the items under 8, seconded by Director Melvin. There leave for the attendance roll call there. Seeing no objection, thank you. Leave is granted.
13 ayes and 3 absent.
Great. Item 9 is new business. Anything to come before new business? If there's nothing under the specific item 9 new business, our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 20th. It's hard to believe we're in the June already. Following committee meetings that will begin as usual at 8:30. Item 10 on our schedule is an item that was to resolve ourselves into executive session. I think Director Durante or Mr. Director McGallis. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the executive session we feel is not needed at this point in time. The item that was going to be discussed in executive session was the appointment of the RTA board chairman, and it's my understanding that Director Durante has a motion that we'd like to make in that regard, and therefore we can do the business now.
Okay.
Director Durante.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's that time of the decade again when we have to elect a chairman. You are my 4th chairman that I have served under, and being from DuPage County, it is my honor to nominate you once again for the position of chairman, and my condolences.
Thank you, Director Durante. Sure. Director Melvin, go ahead. Thank you. I'd be honored. Second.
Okay, and I would also like to second that nomination. And I'd like to make a couple of statements, if I could. Mr. Chairman, your legislative experience in both
Springfield and the federal level has really served this board well. Who can pick up the phone and talk to our federal representatives? In many cases, you can, and you have for this board during the last 5 years. So it really, when we look at what you bring to this board, it's awesome, is all I can say. And I think you have served us well. And to be able to reappoint you for another 5 years of doing the same kind of thing is amazing that you would accept it. Speaking of that, your willingness to get on a train or a plane and go to Springfield on pretty much a moment's notice from a legislative need, if Leanne needs you to do that, or our legislative people, you do it. Same with going to D.C. That's a big time commitment, and you've stepped up to that plate and really done it well. And then if I try to look at your local activities of what you do throughout the month, I guess, it's kind of funny. I often said to you, I think you should do a monthly report saying, here's what I've done. Not keeping track of you, but just looking at what's involved in being chairman on behalf of a board like this. So the only way I can gather information, because you never toot your horn about it, I look at your travel expense form, which shows the diverse involvement, whether it's meeting with legislators, meeting with staff, going to public relations activities, meeting with township officials on ADA problems. If you go through those expense reports, you can see all the activity that you're involved in that goes well beyond anything that you do during these meetings. And I think we don't see that, because I don't attend those, but I know you do, and I think you do a great job. With that, I would just like to say, seconding the nomination for you is an easy thing to do because you have a proven track record. You're not stepping into trying to do it, and we'll see how it goes. You've been doing it for 5 years. So with that, I end my second. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we're able to take it a third second, and myself.
Yes, sir. Director
And
Kagan,
then
thank you.
I'd like to make a comment too.
Please.
It is rare in life, almost impossible, that you find the perfect candidate for a role. And you really are the perfect person to run this board and have brought such professionalism and steadiness to all the service boards. It's unprecedented in a complex state like Illinois, and it's not that funny, but it is a little funny, yeah. And I am not stalking you by your expenses, but I do stalk you on Twitter, and Twitter at Kirk Dillard RTA is amazing. You are at every little and big thing in addition to being in DC, Springfield, with the mayor, in the counties, with the donut truck. It is really impressive. And so you're such a great evangelist for us and for transit across the country, an evangelist and a professional and a legislator. So we're so fortunate.
Thank you.
That's the fifth second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So is there an ordinance that you have, Madam Legal Counsel? Is that, that's what we're voting on, right? There
is indeed. Audrey
Yes, we
has-
do have one. You want it read?
Yes.
Sure, I think it's just a couple
It's short and
sentences.
sweet, might as well.
The ordinance reads, be it ordained by the Board of Directors of the Regional Transportation Authority that Kirk W. Dillard is hereby reappointed Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Regional Transportation Authority for a term of 5 years beginning August 1, 2019 until his successor has been appointed and has qualified.
Great, thank you.
Which means you're going to finish out this term first.
Yeah. Is there leave for the attendance roll call?
Please.
Thank you.
13 ayes and 3 absent.
Thank you all very much. Just a comment. I can't thank you enough for your confidence and counsel and support. This is, and I've seen a lot of boards, this is a tremendous, tremendous board. It makes my job so easy, and I wish the public understood that there are boards who give their time, and you all take time away from your businesses and your family to do this. But this is one outstanding group of primarily business people and labor leaders that are on this board. It's a group effort, and the staff is tremendous. I couldn't do this chairmanship, Director McGallis, as you know, without the staff. We have, I think, the finest staff I've basically seen anywhere in my service in government, under the direction of Leanne, but every member of our staff, from top to bottom, is well-trained, dedicated to mass transit and our riders and taxpayers, and I can't thank the staff enough. We've been through some extraordinarily difficult times, and led by Director McGallis, and I don't want to start singling out individuals, but and B is not here today. Bill, all of you, Jill, we have maintained a system for over 2 million riders without any real state capital funding or assistance for a decade. While that's going to hopefully come to a favorable head in the next month, these have been extraordinarily difficult times, and the talent of the board and the members of the finance committee and all of you and the staff has been great. And then last but not least, we were going through before the meeting a list of former members of the RTA. And I would follow the RTA. I've ridden Metra for ages and the CTA, and even as a state legislator. And I always knew that there was tension between the city and the suburbs, and we're called the Regional Transportation Authority for a reason. But because of all of you and your appointing authorities, and I talk to your appointing authorities hopefully as regularly as I can, I can't thank you enough for the regional cooperation, because we're all one system. People take Metra and they step off and they get on the CTA, and the same with PACE. We are a regional transportation authority, and the regional cooperation has never been better. And then last but not least, the cooperation of the service boards. From Dorval to Don Orsino to now Jim Derwinski, to JD or TJ Ross, and also on to Rocky Donahue, the service boards, and a lot of it is directed by our staff here and our orchestra leader, Leanne Redden, who constantly, picks up the phone and talks to and tries to facilitate communication by the three service boards. That's never been better. So in these difficult times, for us to come together as a region and have the service boards cooperate is critical to our riders, and it's critical to the taxpayers. And I can't do this alone. I just happen to have the chairmanship, but just tremendous people to work with. So love you all, and we'll hopefully have a capital bill, and maybe someday one from Washington, D.C., and it'll make our jobs a lot less stressful. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Director Groven moves that we adjourn, seconded by Director Lewis. Thank you all, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. See you next month.